Chapter 3 time. This one is a little bit different than what the book says. We're basically ignoring the book, but we're doing what we need to do. So, same as before, game, blank game, Chapter 3, and then your last name. Mine already exists because I accidentally made it previously, so I'm just going to open it. Similar to last time, we're going to load in the sprites. This time, of course, the sprites are not in the Chapter 2 folder, but in the Chapter 3 folder. And we need a couple of sprites. We need the moon, we need asteroids, we need a flying ship, we need a landed ship, and we need our background. So I'm going to, again, right-click in this space, create sprite for, start with moon, import, and then in your Game Maker's Apprentice folder, resources, Chapter 3, find the moon, open that, edit the white box to the dotted line button to remove the background, and do this for each of your sprites as we did before. One thing we do want to do is in the sprite area, see this up here in the corner that says top left? For each of the sprites, because they're circles, we want their center to be in the center. So we're going to change this to say middle center. So now the little plus sign thingy is in the middle. We're going to do that for each of the sprites we import. Alright, let's get to importing sprites. Okay, 5 sprites to start. As per usual, we need objects. Objects for everything except for the background. So create object, flying ship, and grab the flying ship and put it on it. Landed ship, landed ship, moon, moon, asteroid, asteroid. This is a little bit different from the last game. All kinds of different objects and things going on here. Now, even more different is the room. So we're going to open our room 1, look at our room. And up here at the top, we basically ignored the complexity of this the first time around. There's the background layer, which is the same. This just takes the background, gives us the background for our image. But then there's this thing that says instances. And before, everything went on the instances layer. We put the dragon, we put the boss, we put everything on the instances layer. But this time, we're going to change it up a little bit. If we put things on different layers, it'll guarantee that some things appear on top of other things. So I'm going to rename this layer. I right-clicked on it, rename layer, to asteroids. This is the layer upon which all my asteroids are going to go. I'm going to take asteroids, drag them into the scene, about 4 of them. I'm then going to do the same thing. I'm going to click this plus here to create a layer, an instance layer for, I can right click to rename, moons. This is where all the moons are going to go, and I'm going to add 4 moons. Kind of randomly throughout the space. I'm going to create a layer, an instance layer, for my ship. And I'm going to put a flying ship in that layer. Oh. ship. Add my ship to that layer. We need one more layer, and this layer is going to be called the special moon layer. And I want this layer to be below the ship layer, so I'm just going to drag it down so it's below the ship. Our special moon layer is just to guarantee that one particular moon, the one that our ship is landed on, is always appearing on top of everything else but below the ship. So we need a special object for that. So we're going to create an object called special moon, and it just looks like an ordinary moon. Nope. To the player, you can't tell that it's any different. It looks like an ordinary moon. In our room, on the special moon layer, we need to make sure that we have one of these special moons. As you saw before, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be flying around, we're going to be landing on moons, and when we fly away from the moons go away. And we have to collect all the moons on the level without hitting the asteroids. And then we get sent to the next level and repeat. My game only had 2 levels in it. You can always add more levels if you want to. But just for an example, I'm just showing you with 2 levels. So, we have our objects. We've set up our moons. We've set up our room. Let's close the room view. And let's start to make things do what we want them to. First off, a moon, when it gets created, it's just going to move in a random direction. So I'm going to add an event, create. So when the moon is created, GML visual, of course, we want it to move. And there's one here that says set direction random. I'm going to put that there. And this gives us like fixed ones. This is not the one we want. We want it to have more directions than just the standard 8 options. So I'm actually going to delete this. And I'm going to pick this one, set direction variable. This gives us more control. So I could type in any number I wanted between 0 and 360. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to type random, and then in parentheses, 360. And what the game will do is just pick a number at random from 0 to 360. Makes life easier for us. In a similar way as before, we're going to set the speed to 4 in the direction we're going. So right now, the moons will just go in a random direction at a speed of 4. We can always test our program, see that this is the case. The moons just go moving off in random directions. The same thing should be true for the asteroid. And, of course, for the special moon. So real quick, I'm going to open up asteroid, add event create, the direction variable, random 360, at a speed of 4, and special moon, add event create. So now when we play our game, everything's going to move randomly. But right now, everything moves randomly, and then it just moves off the screen and it's gone. That's not helpful. In the event, add event, that we are other, outside room, in the movement category, there's this red one. This is wrap around room. Then we're just going to add that to all 3. To the moon, add event, other, outside room, wrap around room, and asteroid, add event, other, outside room, wrap around room. Now when we run our game, They move, but they wrap around the room. But if you look at them, they kind of pop in on the screen a little bit. You notice that? So I often just go in and set my margin to something. 16 is my standard. A margin of 16. And for me, that feels a little bit better. It feels less like they're just popping in inside the room space. But you may notice in all of these things that we've looked at, the rocket ship is just sitting there spinning. That's not what we want, right? So let's close the special moon. Let's close the regular moon. Let's close the asteroid. We got to look at the ship. And we are a flying ship. Actually, I think we want to start with a landed ship. Yes, we want to start with a landed ship. I'm wrong about that. So let's go into our room. And let's click on our flying ship and hit delete on the keyboard, get rid of it, and take our landed ship and put it in the scene. Alright. If we run it, the same is all true. It's still just going to be spinning. But it's just going to be the landed ship this time instead of the flying ship. Let's fix this. Let's double click on the landed ship. Now, a couple of things need to happen with a landed ship. But first thing that needs to happen is the landed ship is just going to live on top of the special moon. So I'm going to add event, and I'm going to use step. What this means is, no, step, sorry. Every time, it's kind of like a frame. Every frame, essentially, it does something, but it processes the frame in 3 kind of groups. When the frame begins to exist, when the frame exists, when the frame ends to exist, and it just calls it a step. So the end of the step is the last thing that's going to happen before it processes, right? So in the end step, what I want to happen is, in my movement, I'm going to just jump to a spot on the screen. And that spot on the screen is going to be where the special moon is. So special moon dot x. That means tell me the x coordinate of the special moon and go there. Special moon dot y. Tell me the special moon's y coordinate and go there. If I run my game, you can see him moving around here. He's just hanging out on top of the one moon, the special moon. But he's just spinning around. Spinning around is not fun. It's not helpful. So we need to change that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to the sprite. I can type. And we're going to set the sprite animation speed. And we're going to set it to 0. So it's just going to stay with whatever animation is started on. And it just sits there, looking sideways right now. Now, the user is going to be able to push some buttons and change the angle that the ship is facing. And we want to correctly use that angle to be the angle we're looking at in our animation. Add event, key down, the left arrow key. and I push the left arrow key, I want to change my direction that I'm facing. So there's a thing here that says set instance variable. And I'm going to drag that in. And I don't want to change the x coordinate. I want to change the direction. And I'm going to change it by 5. Relative. This relative means take whatever my current direction is and add 5 to it. It's not saying change it to 5. It's saying add 5 to whatever the current direction is. So if I hit play now, and I hit the left button, well, nothing happens, right? We need to use that information to change what we look like. So at our end step, right here, we have the set sprite instance. I'm going to put that before the speed. And our sprite is, of course, the landed ship. And the frame is going to be direction, the direction we're traveling, divided by 5. Now, you may have noticed when clicking a whole bunch of times to clear out those backgrounds that there were 72 frames. That's a lot of frames. But there are 360 degrees in a full circle. So if we take our direction and we divide it by 5, we take our 360 and divide the number by 5, it'll give us what frame we're supposed to be looking at. See him spin? So we're going to do the same thing for the right. Add event, key down, right, set instance variable, direction. But this time we're going to go -5 relative, because we want to turn the other way. I could spin one way with the left key, I could spin the other way with the right key. For those of you WASD players out there, duplicate event, the left key, key down, letters A for left, and for right, duplicate, key down, letters D for right. It will turn upon the planet to point in the direction. The last thing that needs to happen is we need to hit the space bar and turn into a flying ship. That's how we launch off the planet. So we're going to add an event. Key pressed. Remember, this only needs to happen the one moment. Space bar. When I push the space bar, what happens? Well, I need to destroy, not myself, but the special moon that I'm sitting on. So if you click this little triangle, it gives you that menu that and then click on special moon. Destroy the special moon. Then we need to create the flying ship right where we are, and we want to create it on the ship layer. So it's in the right depth on the screen above all of the other objects. We want to make sure that the ship is flying in the same direction that we are flying in. So set instance variable, and this time we are going to set the flying ship direction to, we are currently the landed ship direction. We're going to take the direction that we've just calculated for the ship we are currently flying and make the direction of the flying ship the same way so that it launches in the direction we're facing and not in some other random direction. Also, in our movement category, we're going to set the speed of the flying ship to 6. That's how fast our ship is going to move. So We've destroyed the special moon. We've created the flying ship. We've set the flying ship to move in the same direction that we are currently facing. We set the speed of the flying ship to be 6, and then we're just going to destroy the landed ship. So here we go. We can look around, we can rotate, we hit space, and then ooh, but we're flying through space now, right? We've destroyed the moon, we're flying through space. We need to fix the flying ship. Flying ship. Add event. Key down. Well, first off, let's just do other outside room and our favorite in the movements, wraparound room with a margin of 16. If it flies outside the room, it'll fly back just like the asteroids and the moons, right? All right, add event, key down. The left key, we're going to set the direction to 2 relative and not 5. Harder to drive. Key down left. Add 2. We can add another event for key down right. And again, we're going to take our direction, subtract 2 relative, and then I'm going to duplicate for WASD. So now we fly our ship. When we're off the moon, we can move a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. But we're still spinning. So, similar to with the landed ship, where at the end step we set the sprite to be in the correct frame. That's what we do with the flying ship. So we're going to do step and step. Set the sprite to our flying ship with frame direction divided by and animation speed to 0 just to make sure that it doesn't try to change on us. And now when we fly our ship around, it's going to fly in the direction that we're traveling. Alright, next thing we need to do is we need to be able to land on the moon. So that's add event collision with the moon. When we collide with the moon needs to turn into the special moon, and we need to turn ourselves into the landed rocket. So, create an instance of special moon, relative, on the special moon layer. But we're creating it at 0, 0 of the moon. So we want it to be where the moon is, not where the player was. We want the direction of the special moon to be the direction we're traveling. I've done a bunch of things like other dot direction to see if I can make it move in the same direction as the moon. I don't really think it works every time. Just grab the speed and the direction from the moon that we've collided into to create the special moon, and then we can just destroy the moon we've collided into. At the same time, we want to create an instance of the landed ship, because we've landed on the moon, on the ship layer. And then destroy ourselves, because we don't need to be. We are now the landed ship and not the flying ship. So we're going to leave our spot. We're going to find another moon, collide with it. Ooh, there we are, riding that moon. Move around on that moon, leave. Find another moon, see if we can collide with it. Now we're on that moon. But something funky's happening, right? Let's see if we can hit another moon here. Alright, we leave. There's the moon. There's no more moons. So. Create the special moon. A special moon layer, which is moving in the direction of the moon we hit, at the speed of the moon we hit. And then we destroy the moon we hit. We create a landed ship at our location, and we destroy ourselves to be the landed ship. And then it just kind of cycles. So there's our two ships, the landed ship, the flying ship. We have the moons. One thing that we haven't done, with the flying ship, is if it collides with the asteroid. And right now, just for simplicity, when we collide with the asteroid, we're just going to restart the game. In a minute, we will make an explosion happen and then restart the game, but for now, we're just going to restart. So, I'm going to fly around. Land on the moons. Oh, what just happened there? Why are there now two moons? Time to do some bug fixing. Alright, so when the create instance here, when it was creating the special moon on top of the moon, I had clicked on moon instead of on other. And it was for every single moon creating a moon, and that a special moon, and that broke things. So that was that problem fixed. So we can play our game. Fly around. Land on a moon. Oh, we hit an asteroid. We're gonna add the explosion. So, I'm gonna create my explosion sprite. I'm gonna create an object for the explosion. And the explosion is simple. It just goes through its scene once, and then that's it. And what we can do is we can add event other animation end. When it gets to the end of its loop, that's when it destroys itself. And I'm also going to move the restart game to here for now. I'm going to go back to my flying ship. When it collides with the asteroid, instead of restarting the game, it's going to create an instance of the explosion at itself on the ship level, and then it's going to destroy the ship itself. So now, when the ship hits an asteroid, it goes kaboom, and then the game resets. You get a little bit more feedback that you've hit an asteroid than just suddenly the world flipping back. This is the start of a game, but clearly we can do more. So now, let's add the game challenge. It's a little bit of a game. We can add some score to this game. We can add difficulty levels to this game. All kinds of stuff. So, first off, the way that I have always found easiest to make things with a game is to add a special object that just deals with the logic and the everything that just matters for the game part. So I'm going to create a new object called game logic, and it's going to deal with all of the processing that makes the game a game. All of the thinking, all of the score, all of the displaying of text at the end, that kind of stuff. And just so it looks like something, I'm going to give it the moon sprite. Now, we're going to keep it off of the screen of our room, but it's going to be in our room. It just won't ever be visible. Nothing will ever interact with it. If you want to, there are more sprites in the folder that you could just like make a new sprite special for it. You could draw your own sprite for it, whatever. I just like to give it a visual so that I'm sure that I can see it when I put it into my scene, my room. There are a couple of things that need to happen. When the game starts, add event, other, game start. Some things are going to happen. One thing we're going to do is we're going to, right here, set global variable. And we're going to call it game score. Wow, if I could spell. Game score. And we're going to set it to 0. We're going to start with the score of 0 in the game. We are also going to define a variable called game over and set this to false. The game is not over. This is going to allow us to do certain things only when the game is over. For example, when the game is over, put up some splash text on the screen that says, "You crashed. This is the score you got. Would you like to play again, or would you like to quit?" Like that kind of stuff. We have these two variables. Now, we also have some music, and we haven't imported any of the audio. So if you want to do that now, let's just go through, create, sounds, music, and I put A afterwards. We talked about this before. A for audio, because S was already sprite, and then there's 4 different audio tracks to import. So I'm just going to import them all. Audio's in. In our game logic, when the game starts, we're going to play the audio that is the music. If I can find it. Music. And we're going to loop the music so it's just always going. So now we're going to go to room 1. And I put it on, it doesn't really matter what layer it's on the ship level, just because it's top level. I'm going to hit the control key and scroll out a little bit and grab my game logic and just put it right there, outside the scene. Nice and close to the scene, just so that I know where to find it, but it's outside the scene. When I hit play, we won't see it, but we'll know it's working because we'll hear the music. Ooh. Now it's starting to feel more like a classic arcade game. Now, you notice when the explosion happened, We did import an explosion sound. So let's see, when we create the explosion, add event, create, let's play our explosion sound. We don't need to loop that, just play it the one time. Yeah, explosion. So now we explode, and we play the sound when we do it. When we launch our ship, our flying ship, create the flying ship, we have an audio track called launch, which I forgot to put the A on. So we should play that when we create the ship, because it's taking off and launching in that moment, right? Oh. But see, it's starting to sound a little bit more. You can always adjust the volumes, make them lower than 1 if it's too loud, whatever. We also imported a bonus. We'll come back to that. So, we have our flying ship. But here's our game logic. Another thing that needs to happen is we need to know when the game is over, because we want to display the score we got. Now, right now, we're not getting any points. Right now, it's just a score of 0, no matter what. And in our flying ship, whenever we collide with a moon is when we're going to get points, right? So all this stuff happens in our colliding with a moon. Let me close all these just for less visual clutter. We collide with the moon. All of this happens, but right before we destroy ourselves, we should set global variable. And we're going to set it to 10 points relative. You get 10 points for landing on a moon. That's pretty nice. Let's go back to the game logic. Did I call it global dot in here? Game score. Game over. I didn't. Okay, good. So we've set those things. We get 10 points. When the game's over, we want to know how many points we got. So, add event. We're going to go draw. And we're going to go draw. This is how we will do drawing things. And in drawing, there's draw self, there's draw text, and we want to put some text in. And the value, the text is, you got points. And here, global dot game score. Right. And I want to put this in the middle of the screen, so I'm going to put it at room width divided by 2. And room height divided by 2. This is going to be in the middle of the room. It's going to say this. But here's the thing. If I play it right now, it just says you got all the time. Which is nice. I mean, you always know what your score is. But that's not what we were going for. So, we're going to use an if statement. Check if an expression is true or false. If global dot game over. And we're going to put this, see where it says empty here on the right side? See how that like lit up blue next to on the right side? We're going to put it there. And now it makes like a green drag to the sideline. So this will now only happen if the game is over. When does the game become over? When our explosion is done with its animation. We're not going to restart the game anymore. We're going to set our global variable game over to true. Ooh, I got 10 points. But how do we restart the game now? Well, in our game logic, let's add another block of text. And it's going to say, press R to restart. And it's going to use the same width and height, but I'm going to add 15 to it because it wants to be a little bit below the score we said. Well, now we got to make it actually do that. So add event, key pressed, letters R, restart the game, but we should only be able to do that if the game is over. We're going to do a similar thing. I'm going to duplicate this event for key pressed letters Q. But instead of restarting the game, how do I get it? Yeah, here we go. Exit the game. So in my drawing, I'm going to say, well, press Q to quit. At the same width. And then I'm going to make the height 30. There we go. Play around a little bit. Oh. R to restart, Q to quit. I hit R. Go again. Ooh, we missed the moon. Oh, we got 30. And we hit Q, and the game closes. So now, most of the logic is in that makes it feel more like a game. But what happens if we clear all the moons in the level? See if we can do it. Oh, we did it. That's the whole game. That's it. That's not that exciting. Can we add a second level? We have room 1. What if I just copy it? Duplicate. And call this room 2. What happens in room 2? Well, in room 2, there should be more asteroids. Maybe there's even a couple more moons. How do we get here, right? What condition makes it so that we should go from one room to the next? Well, it's the condition that there are no moons left in the room, right? So let's look at our flying ship. It does all these things when it hits the moon, right? It's starting to be a complicated little function here. We're going to create a special moon. It's going to move in the same direction as the moon was moving, at the same speed that the moon was moving. Destroys the moon we just landed on. We turn into a ship that was landed on. We increase our score by 10. We destroy the instance of the flying ship. But there's another question. Should we keep playing the room we're in, or should we move on to the next one? There is a function. If we type instance, there's a block here that says check if an instance exists. There's another one that says get the instance count. This one here says, how many of something exists? This one here says if something exists. And when I say if the moon does not exist, what should happen? Well, if the moon does not exist, we should look to see if there's another room. So I'm going to go to room. Because if we're in the last room already, we can't go any farther. Check if this is the last room. If this is the last room, then, well, game over is true. We made it to the end of the game. Now, there's this else block. If the room is last, game over is true. If it's not, then we're just going to go to the next room, because there's another room to go to. We should get rewarded for this, though. So, we're going to set a global variable, our score, our game score. We're going to give ourselves 40 more points for that. That's pretty good. And we're going to play the bonus audio. Oh. We're in the next room. There's a lot more moons, a lot more asteroids. Ooh. Right. And if you want to, you can just keep on adding rooms. Keep on adding rooms. Keep on adding rooms. Make the game more interesting. Maybe there's a lot of asteroids and not a lot of moons. Maybe there's a bonus room, but there's a lot of moons and not a lot of asteroids. You can do whatever you want to do. One last thing I want to show you that you can do. It's not super important that you do this, but it is something you could do just to make it a little more visually interesting. I'm going to add another sprite and called Moon Skins. There is a collection that they call bases in the folder, which has 8 different looking moons. Oh, this one with 2 little buildings, one with 1 little building, so big skyscrapers, just a couple of different looking buildings here. To give your moons a little bit more of an interest when you look at them, right? So maybe the moon, oh wait, hang on, don't forget, I almost forgot there. Change the hitbox to be the middle center. Alright, maybe in our moon, when we create the moon, maybe we also pick at random one of those 8 skins. So, this one here, set sprite. Change the sprite. We're going to do moon skins. And the frame is going to be random out of 8, because there were 8 skins. And then set the speed to 0 so it doesn't change what it looks like. Now, our moons have a little bit of variety to them. And they remember what they look like. When we restart, we get a new random variety of moons. Look at all these moons. I don't even know where we are. There we are. Oh. Do that. Don't do that. There's another option. Planets, toids, and planets that have different skins in them. You could use those instead if you want. There are other assets in here that we're not using, but you know, they're there if you want to play with them. This is the idea. Challenge to you is to add at least 3 rooms to the game. Make that screen at the end if you feel like it. Maybe make that ending screen a little bit more interesting than just a couple of black texts. You can draw rectangles, you can draw shapes in the background to kind of, you know, make it look better. This is the challenge. This is the game.